Hello, Professor Clinton. This is my final exam video. I apologize, I'm not on camera, but it's late here and I'm not completely comfortable at being on camera, so this kind of caught me off guard. But I just wanted to at least turn in my final exam. If I get docked, that's fine with me because I'm not on camera. But yes, I just wanted to walk you through my video and my final exam and how I came across my thesis and how I came up with it and everything like that. So my essay is going to be about Coco Chanel, which I highly relate to as far as growing up with not not having a lot, being in situations where we were struggling. So yeah, I feel like I can relate to her as well as being into fashion and an artist. I think in I think and feel from my essay that I want to argue that Chanel's difficult childhood, especially her experiences with poverty, abandonment, and discipline in the orphanage. However, it did really shape the her independence and her resilience that contribute to her success. However, I also wanted to argue that in Gladwell's book, his concept of cultural legacy does not fully explain her success because I think um, while it wasn't completely she didn't develop success as the first time she was brought into the world. She had to learn things differently than other people because she didn't have the means or the opportunities to get to become wealthy at a start. She did have a troubling childhood, and that really shaped who she is now, and that's why she's such a famous, iconic, and such an influential person, in my opinion. And her cultural legacy does not fully explain her success, but because creativity, ambition, and personal choices also played a major role. So for my thesis and my central argument, I wanted to say that my central argument is that cultural legacy does help explain some of Miss Chanel's success, but it is not the complete explanation, in my opinion. Gladwell also argues in his book Outliers that inherited values and behavior shapes how people approach work and success. I think in Chanel's case, her childhood experiences taught her discipline, emotional restraint, and independence, of course. I feel like those values, especially those values, later appeared in both her personal personality as well as her fashion designs, which, oh man, I love Coco Chanel so much. At the time, I can argue that her cultural legacy alone cannot explain why Chanel became globally successful. While many other people with difficult childhoods did not. So her creativity and willingness to challenge social experiment expectations were also very important. And yes, that's my thesis for now. I do, I do believe that it's it sounds pretty good. I couldn't get any feedback on my other essays because I did turn in everything at the last minute. So I digress. My I wanted to go with my strongest paragraph. Um, I think my strongest paragraph in my essay is one where I analyze how Chanel's orphanage experience influenced her fashion philosophy. Philosophy. I apologize. Philosophy. In this paragraph, I focused closely on the phrase "simply in order" from the from the Miss Picardy's biography about Miss Coco Chanel. Instead of only summarizing her childhood, I wanted to analyze how emotional environment of the orphanage later appeared in her minimalist fashion designs, which I really appreciate. I think I feel Yes, I feel that my paragraph is effective because it connects specific details from her childhood directly to Gladwell's concept of cultural legacy. Such a great example. It also uses the zoom in writing style, which I really appreciated. Um, I really appreciate the zoom in writing style that you helped us practice with and learn to help us further improve our writing styles, our strongest thesis, as well as coming up with such creative ways to make our essay sound very interesting, and it engages with our readers to have a better understanding of where my essay is going. So it's not completely confusing my audience. So for my reach research sources, I wanted to go with one that I liked by Miss Justine Picardy. Would be the quote: "The most useful source for my essay was Coco Chanel, the legend and the life of Justine Picardy." I did find this source while researching biographies about Chanel. It also helped me understand the emotional side of her childhood instead of just the historical facts, which I really enjoyed the book. It taught me so much about Miss Chanel. I think this source is important because it explains how life in the orphanage shaped Chanel's personality and values as well. It also gives me details that is connected well to Gladwell's idea that early environments influence behavior later in life. I think another important source was Outliers itself, because it it gave me the framework for analyzing success through cultural legacy and worth ethics. I um I really liked that. It definitely strengthened my essay as well. So I'm very happy how my essay turned out. I wanted to go over cultural legacy connection, and honestly, this essay connects to Chanel's life so well. It connects so well to Gladwell's concept as well of cultural legacy by showing how inherited behaviors and early environments shape us and shape people as a whole, especially in the long term. For Chanel, the emotional discipline and structure of the orphanage really influenced how she approached her work. Also, her fashion and her identity, her designs reflected simplicity as well as restraint and control, which mirrored the environment she grew up with. You can totally see her work in her designs. I really, really, really admire her as well. I also connected her success to Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule because Chanel spent years learning sewing and developed her fashion style before becoming successful, before becoming Coco Chanel as we know it now. Every girl wants a Chanel bag. Um, However, I also explained that cultural legacy has limits because it cannot fully explain creativity, innovation, or ambition. My writing process would have to be one of a challenge I did face during the writing process was avoiding too much biography. At first, I was summarizing Chanel's life instead of analyzing how cultural legacy shaped her success. During my revision, I wanted to focus more on the zoom in analysis by taking small details or quotes that explain how they connected to Gladwell's theory. One major revision that I made was strengthening my analysis about how Chanel's minimalist fashion reflected the emotional restraints and simplicity of her childhood. Yes. Um, so my reflection is one thing I have learned from this essay. I would have to say is that success is definitely more complicated than Gladwell sometimes suggests in Outliers. Uh, his cultural legacy and how he explains it, it clearly influences people's behavior and mindset, but it doesn't completely determine success. Chanel's story shows that creativity, emotional resilience, ambition, and personal choices also matter. It matters so much. I think her life definitely demonstrates that people can transform painful experiences into motivation and identity, which goes beyond Gladwell's explanation once again. His explanation of inherited cultural patterns is so important. So I'm gonna be honest with you, when it came to my AI and writing process for my reflection, I did use AI tools. I did try to use the Nectar AI for some time, but it would not let me use it. So I ended up using another AI tool, and it did help me organize my outline and improve clarity in some sections of my essay. But however, the overall argument, topics, choice, analyst, and main ideas reflect my own thinking and interpretation of Chanel's life and Gladwell's theory. The parts that most reflect my own choice are the emotional and analyst sections, where I discuss how Chanel transformed her childhood experiences into her identity as a fashion philosophy. Oh, man. Professor Clayton, again, thank you for watching my essay. walkthrough and reflection. Again, I wanted to apologize. I'm not on camera and I did exceed the minutes, over minutes, because it was the maximum minutes for 8. Again, I want to apologize about that. I was just really excited about explaining my research and my theories, and also the help with Coach Seneca, who helped me come up with an idea of writing a paper about somebody that I can relate to, and I can relate to Coco Chanel. I was extremely happy when I was going through my theses and writing this paper and this essay. It has to be one of my favorites. Thank you again. Have a good day.